everybody. I am here at Proper Notice with Ellen Futterman.
Hi.
She is my go-to invitation stationer, paper life support. I'm so happy to have her on. She knows so much about this industry and she is so experienced and really has some creative ideas that she always tailors to each client. She's a joy to work with. She is spot on, seamless, detail-oriented, and we're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Janine, and you know how much this means to me. Well, you know how much our relationship means to me, that we've really grown together. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I figured I would just tell you a little bit about Proper Notice. I've been in business for 27 years, located on Long Island, but I serve clients all throughout the tri-state area and as far as Florida, California, Canada.
I know, she's like, oh yeah, everywhere. I'm doing something at the Montage Beverly Hills. I'm like, oh yeah.
All over the place.
Too.
With technology, it's easy to take care of clients everywhere. And we do lots of weddings, mitzvahs, sweet 16s, communions, you name it, we do it. We're everything paper, from the save the date to cocktail napkins at an event.
Yeah.
We do it all.
And so how did you kind of stumble upon this business?
So for me, I was in the fashion industry. I went to FIT and I wound up going to Italy and learning to speak Italian, and I wound up working for Giorgio Armani and Jean-Paul Gaultier in high-end fashion in textile design and production. And then when I got married and had kids, I was traveling all over the world, and it wasn't really conducive to getting married and having a family. And we thought, fabric, paper, kind of the same. So I just switched from fabric to paper, and this was more of a business that supported women and was more home-based, and I could do while I had kids at home. So I took all of my expertise in working for Donna Karan, Issa Miyake, all those high fashion designers, and put it into paper. And I feel like I grew with the industry. I feel like the industry was a little smaller, and then it got bigger, and people are more aware and more savvy about their weddings now.
For sure, and that's such an interesting leap to make from fashion, and kind of, you know, a trend-setting leap to.
I feel like it's exactly the same.
Huh.
I really do. I feel like I was working with fabric and planning zippers, and now I'm working with paper and planning calligraphy. And a lot of what I do is, I think, production and timing, and I think a lot of clients come to me because I keep them on schedule. And I know when they need to think about stamps and when they need to think about calligraphy, and are they doing a brunch, and when all of those pieces need to get mailed. And I feel like that is the same in the fashion industry, getting the zipper, getting the calligrapher. So
Absolutely.
For me, it was seamless, and I feel like the papers that are out there right now feel like sometimes like fabric, even though we still do work with fabric, and I work with leather, metal, wood. I feel like all the handmade papers are really beautiful right now,
and it's all coming in, like, it's always changing and evolving, which is so exciting.
Correct, absolutely. What I would have done for a bride 5 years ago, I would never do now. The bride at the Plaza is a totally different bride than the bride at Tribeca Rooftop. So I feel like everyone can have something really personal and that really fits their event. And you know, your invitation is your first glimpse into your event. When I have a client who says, oh, it's not really that important, it really is.
Right, and I don't like irk you, because I mean, if I got one of these beautiful invitations in the mail, or when I do for a wedding, like, there's something about just holding it, like, you actually get really excited
absolutely,
about
absolutely.
The event.
And it sets the tone for the event, and you know when something, like I did this for a bride who was at the Latte Palace in New York, and it's so delicate and so ethereal and soft. Like when you see it and you're like, oh, I've got gold handmade tissue and such beautiful handmade calligraphy on deckled paper from Italy.
And you could just see how much like time and thought went into this.
Exactly, exactly. And you sort of know what to expect. It's going to be an elegant, sophisticated wedding.
Absolutely.
And so I do think that my brides, you know, they never regret. They're always like, I loved my invitation, or I loved the process of making my invitation so much, and you know, doing the stamps and hiring hand calligraphers and looking at, you know, different font styles. I feel like they all just love that, and they love Another thing that's really big are monograms, and so like this bride did a blind embossed monogram, and then she owned that art, and she could use it on everything.
Throughout the wedding.
Throughout. She could put it on the dance floor, she could put it on cocktail napkins, it could be behind a mirror with her seating arrangement. It's just personal, and then it can also follow through on the paper to a thank you note.
Right.
So it's nice to have to do a monogram or a duogram.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to talk about the process a little bit. I would say that an ideal time to come to a stationer for your wedding is probably 8 months out.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
It gives you enough time because you've already thought about some design concepts and the direction you're heading. And you have probably a few pieces, you know, your venue already booked.
Right.
Your dress probably. So things are already starting to come together.
Right. You definitely have a vision, but you're not in a rush.
Right. And we can fold the design of the invitation in.
Absolutely.
And so when I bring my clients to Ellen, this whole table gets swamped with paper, design ideas. We're pulling, we're picking, we're
Mixing and
moving
matching.
out. And so it's really a creative process, and I think that's part of the whole wedding planning process. I think each piece has a creative process to it. So I think this is the way it should actually be done.
It's very personal. It's not about anyone else. It's about what your vision is, you and your groom, you and your mother, you and your mother-in-law, whoever you want to include in that process.
And we also have said for quite some time now that wedding traditions are kind of out the window. It's
Right. I usually say to my brides, so here are the suggested etiquette rules, and now you can break them.
right.
So I like my brides to know, oh, Emily Post would tell you you can't have a monogram before you're married. Your letters shouldn't be joined until you're married. So you should have a duogram on your invitation, and on your program you should have a duogram, but on your menu you can have a monogram because you're already
wow.
been married. That would be, 20 years ago, that's how I did it. And there were vendors that I used that didn't break that rule. They would not print a monogram on your invitation. Would not print.
That's crazy.
And now I say, this is the way Emily Post would do it. Same way with a house of worship. A house of worship, it's supposed to be worded, request the honor of your presence. Nothing else.
Right.
Now I tell you that, and you do what you want, together with your parents.
Or the pleasure of your company is
The
one
pleasure
we like.
of your company. I love the pleasure of your company, but that's not supposed to be used if you are in a house of worship.
Mm-hmm.
So there are no rules anymore. I feel like brides can totally do what they want, and I think it's just most important they please themselves, their in-laws, their family, that those
Right,
two
and just
families,
have a discussion about what's going to be on the invitation.
Exactly.
Just so no one's blindsided or caught off guard.
Absolutely.
So aside from different paper making like a comeback, because this is really reminds me of like scrolls on the
Right, so this is all handmade European
Yeah.
paper, and I have lots of really beautiful papers, and I would say besides that, I would say color is really important. So I feel like a lot of brides, it's cyclical. They come in and all of their friends are engaged, and they're all
true.
getting lots of invitations. So they want to be different, but they don't want to really, they think they come in saying, I really want to be different, and then they really don't. So doing something with a little bit of color can differentiate you without making you look totally different.
Right.
So when a bride comes in and they say like, I want a classic invitation, so if you have a white invitation, but now you have a charcoal gray envelope, it's different than the bride who has the white envelope. So the little details about everything are charcoal gray.
Right.
And then another bride will come in and say, I just got the charcoal gray, now I'm gonna do the pale gray. And I think there are little differentiators too, like envelope flaps. Like here, this is a European flap, which we actually copied. So this is classic European paper. This guy I made a die for my brides. And you
Okay.
can make this in any color. So it's a little, just makes it a little bit different. And then on this guy, they've got trim on the edge, gold trim on the edge, which is on every card.
Yes, and I know you're a fan of that one. And now that I'm
Huge,
now I'm
huge.
seeing this,
This
I told
is
you
gorgeous.
I told you the flat last week when I was here, but I think this is my favorite.
This is so beautiful. This is a Fabriano style from Italy, but we made our own dye, and now you can make it in any color you want.
That's beautiful.
I've done it in navy blue, light blue.
And also something on this, this is called a stamp story.
Oh, yep, we were talking about that. So this is definitely trending. I think you'll see this all across the country. So with postage, your postage is going to be likely more than a 70-cent US postage stamp. It could run into the $2 and $3 price point. And instead of doing a Zazzle type stamp, which I think is fine, but can look not as sophisticated, a lot of my brides like collecting stamps. None of these are actually vintage on here. These were all current stamps, so nobody had to pay any more than what the face value was. And then sort of make a collection of what feels true to either your story or to your color story or something personal that reflects you, and mixing and matching all of the stamps, which is, you know, definitely a differentiator, makes it stand out from all the other envelopes that will come.
And can you explain your trick about placing your stamps?
So what? So the best...
This is probably a tip that
this
you
is
don't...
a good, this
yeah,
is
that's
a
a
good
good
tip.
one.
So when you take a stamp, you always want to have a border on the top and the side that you hope is equal. And you also want to give some space in between each stamp so they look gracious. But if you put these stamps on facing you, it's a lot harder because your hand has to hold that stamp further away from your body. If you turn the envelope upside down and you bring it close to your body and you work upside down, you'll get used to working upside down easily, and you'll see that you have much less distance to travel, so your stamp, you'll hold your stamp much steadier, and you'll get every stamp on much easier.
And just to give you guys a picture, stamping, stuffing, and mailing out takes
Hours.
hours.
Think about 100, 200 invitations. Every single one needs to be, I suggest you number the back of your response card to your guest list, so you know in case your uncle forgets to write his name.
And they will.
That you know it's coming back to you. And then I want you to place the stamp on your reply card just as nicely as you do it on your outer envelope. That should look beautiful too. And then you need to collate brunch card, weekend card, hotel card, valet card, web card.
I think like if you can't carve out at least 4 hours for, let's say, like 150 invitations,
do it.
Yeah, it's a multi-day process.
Right. So it definitely is a long process. So definitely having the trick about the stamps is absolutely helpful.
And then what do you think the best method is to seal the envelope?
Glue stick.
The glue stick.
Yeah, I actually do. I think that a glue stick, and I also think you should, and it doesn't matter the glue stick, it doesn't matter the brand, it can be clear, they all dry clear. Glue stick is the way to go. The water makes ripples. Don't lick them. Unless they come with self-adhesive tape inside, use the self-adhesive. Otherwise, but traditional envelopes don't come with self-adhesive. Otherwise, a glue stick, and I do suggest putting them on just something heavy to let them just seal overnight before they go to the post office.
That's a good tip.
When they go to the post office, the most important tip is a little box of donuts. Bring a little something to the post office, because remember, they are federal employees and they cannot take a tip, but you really want to ask the person at the post office to hand cancel your invitations. Hand cancel, which means that they will show you hand cancel. Because this is the stamp, you want the cancel mark.
Gotcha.
So you want them to either give you or promise you that they will cancel it. And if you have many stamps, they will show you where they want it stamped, and they'll give it to you, or they'll take it and they'll stamp it in the appropriate spot. It avoids the first step of going through the machine. It won't avoid, if you have local mail, you might get it perfect. You might only have that little canceled mark and no other markings from the post office. If it's going across the country, it could hit some others, but local, you'll avoid that. You'll have a clean, pristine envelope. I also suggest that you ask them if you can separate by zip code. I know that's super neurotic, but if you've met my clients, you would know that everyone really wants a pristine envelope. So if you're going to your local post office, you ask them, can you take all the locals, and maybe they won't get sent out and they'll just go right into the carrier's bags. So when we provide a service where we stamp stuff in mail for our clients, and we will do that, we will find out what your local post office will do, and we will sort out everything that's local, and we have a relationship with a lot of local post office, and we bring big boxes of donuts, and we'll go in there and we'll ask them to put them right into the hand carriers, right into the local delivery guy's hands, so they don't get dirty. And then the others will try to sort, like if they're going to Garden City to get sorted, for example, we'll
Right.
give them all of those so that they can stay a little cleaner. Unfortunately, once they're really out of our hands, they're out of our hands, but we do everything we can to control the process that they come beautiful and pristine.
Now, since getting to know you and being in this industry, I've learned a little bit of this, and you're obviously the expert here, but I can't imagine that anybody watching or anybody that's just going through the invitation process knows that all of this goes into it.
Right. I'm sure that they don't. As far, also, a lot of brides, I feel like they go looking at invitations and they don't realize that if they have a colored envelope, they probably need hand calligraphy. I feel like they don't realize that they can't print digitally a dark color, a light color on dark paper. And so it's important, I think, when you come to me that we talk about everything. And so when we're looking at your budget, you see, you don't have a surprise. It's not like, okay, I spent $2,000 on invitations, and in your mind you think you're spending, what, $200 on machine calligraphy, and in essence you have a gray envelope that can't go through the machine, and it's now 3 times the price to do hand calligraphy.
Right.
So I think part of why brides like to come to me is I'm extremely thorough. I really think through the process and whatever can happen might. And
I have to agree with this.
and knowing that you need to budget in for hand calligraphy, or be sure that you can have machine calligraphy, whatever suits your style best, and thinking about, will it get wrecked at the post office, or all of the things that could happen. We really try to anticipate. After 26 years, we kind of know a lot of things that wouldn't happen.
And some of my clients, when I create a budget for them and I, price point at the invitation line, sometimes it's almost a shock. And I don't know where this information is coming from. And not that the whole budget isn't a shock.
Right, because a wedding it's big.
Yes. But do you think like a site like Minted or, a site like that has almost provided confusion on like coming to a stationer?
I do, because I don't think you're getting the same level of service. So I think when you're doing Minted, and it's a beautiful website, but you're not getting really personal attention, and I don't think they're thinking through the details for you.
Right.
There's nobody there saying, I can't print on that envelope.
Right, and the invitations aren't coming out like this. They're a different look.
Totally a different look, but I also think that no one's thinking about, postage is going up January 27th. No one's telling you that.
Right.
You think you're calculating your postage based on what's out there right now, whereas we are really super conscious of, we know the postage is always changing. We'll go to the post office and weigh things for you. We'll double and triple check. I have heard many stories of brides getting their invitations back because they weren't aware that the postage changed, and they're buying a stamp on Minted, and Minted isn't telling them that.
Now that's a great point. And you were telling me last week the postage is changing in a wacky way.
In a wacky way. So it's changing as of the 27th, right?
So 3 days.
And what they're doing is now a lightweight invitation will not really change, but anything that's heavy, and I have brides that mail acrylic invitations or laser cut heavy invitations, and those are actually going to be by zone, which means that you have to weigh your invitation and get a chart and look up your zip codes and figure out what zip codes are within each zone. So it's actually going to cost a different price to mail from New York to Connecticut than it is from New York to Kentucky or New York to California. I think my team, we have spent an inordinate amount of hours at the post office with the post office general, master, with charts, practicing and going over everything so we can explain to our clients exactly how it's going to be, because it's super complicated. But I think we got it down.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything
Yeah.
less.
And we're printing stamps for our clients now also. So
Oh.
we're printing custom stamps here because we can actually control the denomination. We can print
Right.
100 with $3 denomination, 20 with $4 denomination. So it's another service that we've decided to add on so we can
Yeah,
make your life
business growth.
easier. Business growth.
And when you do hand calligraphy, I mean, I know you're a calligrapher and I love her. I hope she's watching. How do you have just one calligrapher who does like one type, or?
No, so I'd say that I work with probably 5 hand calligraphers, and each one has a little bit of their own style. The same way if you came to me and you wanted a crane invitation, it has a different style than a Bella Figura invitation. So each of the calligraphers has their own hand, and they specialize in different things. So once we start working on it, you know, first of all, do you want hand calligraphy? Do you want your whole invitation?
Perfect. My last question, then we can go on to anything else, would be, is there any tried and true invite that has stood the test of time? And
I think a crane invitation with a gold beveled edge, a heavy invitation, is the tried and true.
that up there?
This is actually not. This is actually a take on that. This is a higher end invitation with a much deeper bevel. This is custom and engraved. But this look is probably 50% of my brides are coming in and asking for the ivory with gold, though I feel like right now white is trending much stronger than ivory. And not just soft white, but even the optic white. Brides are wanting fresh. They're wanting it to look really optic white, whether it's white with gold, white with silver, rose gold, huge trend. They're tending to go away from the ivory as if it looks more old-fashioned. And even on a formal invitation, and I have lots of brides right now at Cipriani Wall, Cipriani 42nd, the Pierre, the Plaza, super formal, and they're doing an invitation like this, but with a white face card, not the ivory. Surprising! Look how surprised you are.
Because this is, you know, I always picture the ivory
This
being
is
the
the
go-to.
right. This is the
and
tried
then,
and true card, but
Yeah.
I'm absolutely customing it and doing it with a white face.
Fabulous. Well, I think it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and the bevel. And my brides are getting more and more savvy. Do I want it straight? Do I want an edge? Do I want the edge colored? Do I want it to have ink or foil? Do I want it to be beveled 45 degrees or 60 degrees? And I'd say 50% of my brides want a card like this, and then letterpress is really the other 50% of my business, which brides come in and they're looking for anything that's super trendy and funky and maybe at a vineyard to something really modern with that rose gold foil. Here, there's a custom sleeve on here. A little bit of interactive, this pulls out, and
So
super
fun.
modern.
Yeah.
So I feel like this kind of layout and this printing is really on trend, and brides are coming in and asking for letterpress and foil, which is what this is. I'd say my number one color is not black anymore. It is charcoal. Most of my brides, whether it's formal or funky, charcoal seems to be the number one color for text.
I'm shocked by that. I was gonna say, when you pulled the gold out, I was gonna say black would be my guess, like a standard.
Charcoal.
I am wrong.
Charcoal. They want something a little bit softer. A
Nice.
little bit softer, so I would say charcoal. And I have brides that like squares, that, you know, are definitely trending towards squares. And you can see the foiled edge on here.
Right.
Which is definitely, you see it on here, on the gold foil, rose gold foil.
There's so many options, guys. You can do you can just create anything.
You can actually create anything.
Yes.
We've done invitations in boxes. They get hand delivered. We've done them in huge boxes. We've done them in mini boxes. I love invitations that are either tiny or big. I love a tiny invitation when the client comes in and they want to do something really small. I think it has just as much presence as a standard invitation because it's unexpected.
Right.
So people take notice of it when they say, the bride will say, I don't want small, no one's going to think it's important, but they actually stop and look at it because it is petite.
It's so different.
Right. And I would say another really big trend are embellishments, wax seals, ribbons, vellum overlays. It's all in the details. And I'm always saying that with my bride, that the simplest card, it's beautiful, but you can always make something simple and beautiful stand out with hand-tied bows, silk bows that are 100% silk, that are dyed, that are ombre, wax seals, vellum overlays that are printed, vellum overlays printed with foil. It's
funny.
endless.
I think the trend to like tablescaping has almost
Absolutely. Gone
jumped into invitations.
Absolutely. Because like when you look at a table now and you see
all the details.
the charger with 4 rows, the
the nameplate,
And we'll do menus that fit inside your charger. And I feel like it all really tells a story. And yes, I think that all of the Affirma really took its lead from tablescaping, and it's all here now too.
Yeah, and why not add more details and fun things?
It's your
that can
day.
really
Be a bride.
I don't have any more questions. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think that you should have fun. I think that you should pick your battles wisely. I think you should remember that it's a merging of lots of families, and don't get stuck on the small details. Be flexible, and I think that will guide you really through the whole process. Just
Great
sort of being
advice.
flexible.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming
much
on.
for having me.
Of course.
This is amazing.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, guys, have a great day. Stay dry. It's pouring here
Stay
in New
dry.
York.